All right, having a little sit down chat today. So, right now, literally, like the whole world is going through a major shift. I always try not to get too like spiritual on this page. I try to save that for my other pages, but I'm just, I gotta be myself, right? Whether you are spiritual or religious or not, you can see that the world is going through something right now. Okay, that's not even on like any kind of text whatsoever. Some people kind of saw it coming a while ago. Some people are really kind of seeing it today. My artists and musicians, of course. Now it's time to really let go of the fear to create and have your creations be seen, and just unleash all the creativity. If we're gonna be honest, mainstream media, such as Hollywood, all like the big movies that have come out in the last couple of years, even on the music side, like all the stuff that's kind of pushed, it was cool for a time, but it's so like kind of basic and fake that the people who know and like are kind of real people are not really buying that anymore. All the fake synthetic stuff that exists everywhere is going out. And so because it's going out, right, there's now an opening for artists who really care about the art form, right? I'm not talking about artists who are trying to be artists to get the bag. I'm not talking about artists who try to copy the most famous thing and have that, just take it and run with it. That's not what I'm talking about. Excuse me. I'm talking about these artists, and not just music now, but any and every art form, who really love that art form and really try to respect it and really express themselves through that art form. Now is the time for us to do that. And I'm talking about it on this page today because I'm trying to inspire people and to help people to get to that point where they really see the art craft for what it truly is at its core and try to recreate that, you know what I'm saying? So, hence, this subject is coming up on this channel. Me personally, I've actually been listening to and watching less and less movies over the last couple of years. It was a deliberate choice at first, where like I realized how much debauchery, and I use that word a lot. I'm gonna get a definition of debauchery and put it up on screen so you guys can look at it. I realized how much debauchery was in it, and I didn't want to be around that because it's just not something that I like to get into. It's not my cup of tea. And yeah, it's not that conversation though for today. But it's not my cup of tea. And so I decided to take a step back and not listen to music for a while, not watch any movies for a while, kind of take a break from all that. Of course, not on social media. Really just get into it with real life. And it was great, honestly. But coming back to music, listening to music and watching movies, I realized how kind of fickle it is, how soulless it is. Now, coming back after not listening to music for a time, I can really tell when an artist has put their heart, soul, mind, and spirit into something. And kind of when they're just producing it as habit or to copy somebody else, I can really tell the difference now. And something that's interesting that I've actually experienced, this is like a side note, it's very funny when people who enjoy a certain genre or, people who think that they know about a subject, but they're really just audience members. It's really funny to hear them or really see them when I say I haven't watched so-and-so movie or haven't heard of so-and-so artist or composer or album, and they are so surprised. I was born with my own style, kind of. That's not the best way to put it. I was really born looking at the world a certain way, and that's the world that I fell in love with. And so the stories that I create try to reflect that world that I see and experience. It's funny when people try to give me artists to listen to or movies to watch, because I already have my own style. I could watch the movie and I might find something cool that I might want to use, but there's no real reason for me to watch it, you know? I already have my style. I already know who I am creatively and as a person. So watching that movie isn't going to do much for me personally, you know? There's a big difference in being an audience member and being inside the stands and being a player, you know? It's a different mindset, you know? You might see something from the audience like, oh, he could have did that there. But when you're in the game, there's a whole bunch of more stress, you know? It's just a different perspective, different thought process, you know? So that's honestly what it gives when somebody's like, oh my God, you haven't heard of this guy. And I'm like, no, you know, I don't really need to, right? That's just a side note though. So we as artists, and of course, once again, I'm not talking to those who just want to, you know, do an art form for money. People who genuinely love their craft. We have a responsibility now to reshape and recreate the world. Art and music have such a large impact, you know, and I'm not just talking about, once again, music. And when I say art, I'm really opening it up to all forms of art. This is film, photography, fashion, food, even like architecture and design, interior design, you know, like we live in such a bland world now due to technology and due to people trying to be modern, you know, that there's so much room and space for new ideas and new concepts. There's even space to bring the old concepts back, you know, like we can't just forget all the good that is in the past, you know, we have to bring that into the present and have that live on too. And so the people at the forefront of this are the creatives, not even just art. It could be science, it could be inventors, you know what I'm saying? Like we have that's creation as well. I don't consider art, you know, to me everything is art, you know. That's a very cliche thing to say. That sounds so cliche, but to me art is anything that is created. And so to my inventors and scientists that are trying to develop the next cool thing or the cure, you know, you also have an artist mindset to a degree. You also have an artist mindset to a degree. So that's who I'm talking to. We have a responsibility. This has gone bigger than just music at this point. I think I need to reel it back, actually. But we have a very big responsibility to shape the minds. We shape people's minds already with our music, but now it's more so, what do we want to put out? What is necessary? There's a lot of power being a musician, actually. And once you get into that space that I mentioned in one of my other videos, where you and the music or you and the art is spiritual, you have a lot of power. You have a lot of power to shape the minds of people of all ages, you know? And so that's why all the debauchery is pumped out, because if everybody's head is in their pants, then, you know, I'm getting on my Prince stuff now. In terms of, you know, seeing the world a certain way. But anyway, we have a big responsibility to reshape the minds and reshape the world. There's a vacuum. There's an open space for new ideas, new stories, you know, and not just multiverse stories like the trend has been for the last couple of years. Original stories, you know. And of course, some of it is just being retold over and over again for however long. But bottom line is there's a space for the heart, soul, and mind of artists again. It's not just the manufactured stuff that's pumped out every year. People, due to technology and due to the disconnection amongst human beings that technology has produced, people are yearning for soul. People are yearning for what's real, you know? And there's demand, there has to be a supply. You know, either we're gonna just continue to allow the manufactured mess and garbage. Either we're gonna allow the manufactured mess and garbage to just continue, or we're gonna take a step up and really begin to give the world what the world has been wanting for 4 or 5 decades now, since the real stuff has, you know, been watered down and forgotten. This is a very, you know, kind of serious video. I really am hoping to inspire, but this is, you know, it's a serious subject. You know, I feel like whenever, and I say this all the time, whenever I'm talking, you know, it's also for me, because I personally am guilty of this. I have like 5 to 10 songs that are unreleased, unrecorded and unreleased, that I'm just sitting on. Some of which I've been sitting on for like a couple years. And to my defense, right? Sometimes it helps to sit with a song for that long, but sometimes it's just not necessary. Like one of the songs I kind of just have been sitting on for about a year now. And, you know, my excuse is I'm busy, right? But music is really what I love and what I'm pursuing. So I shouldn't be too busy for, you know, to record my song, you know? So yeah, you and me have to get over our fear of releasing our music. Nobody has a perfect catalog, you know? Even if we think of our favorite artists and we think, oh my God, everything that they do is just immaculate, sure. But if you ask them, they'll say that they like some albums more than others, that they know that they did better on some songs more than others. For me, I can't get caught up thinking, oh my God, I don't think this song is the best. Or just getting in the fear. Because when you're creating, you do want to have that confidence in what you do. You don't want to put anything out that you're not confident in. But where it becomes kind of unreasonable, and you've just been sitting on your music for years, like I have, 2021 in some cases, there's really like no reason for that to be the case. And it really holds, like I was just mentioning, it holds back the world from changing and evolving. You know, music once again has such a large impact. So if that song went out, right, you know, it might not have been received then, but years down the line, which happens, people will love it. A perfect example of this is actually Willow Smith's Wait a Minute. I don't know when she wrote it, but it came out in 2015, and people didn't really find it and start liking it until 2022. You know, like, that's the reality of a lot of times having a song that's just before time, you know. That's just the reality of it. You know, sometimes you're so ahead that people don't catch on until 7 years later, 10 years later, right? And also sometimes you need the time to develop the song, like I mentioned. Frank Ocean, probably my favorite song by him to this day is Siegfried off of Blonde, like the 17th track off of Blonde. The 15th track off of Blonde, because Blonde has 17 tracks. Blonde is one of my favorite albums, as I'm sure it is some of yours if you haven't already heard it. Listen to it if you'd like. It's an experience for sure. But he wrote that song, or he was writing that song back in like years before it was released on Blonde. Blonde came out 2016, so I'm sure it was. I remember seeing a video from like 2011 or 2012 where he was performing like an early version of that song, right? Very different from the version, or not very, still same chord structure and all that. Sometimes it takes that long to develop a masterpiece like that. So, you know, my bottom line and what I'm trying to say is just keep on creating, and especially now is the perfect time to start releasing, you know, and don't get too perfectionist mindset. Release it at a point where you're satisfied with it, where you know that you like it, you know, and if you don't like it, continue working on it, right? But now is really like there's a void in which creatively out there, you know, and it's not that we don't have real people. I'm sure that there's real people out there, but I feel like there's fewer of us, and there's more people who just want to try to copy what's mainstream. And also, because music is now being like distributed on our devices, we don't always get to find those good people, you know, that are pushing a positive message, because that's definitely necessary in this time. People need that light in life. Pushing a positive message, and a message that's, you know, not the mainstream debauchery that we usually get. Yeah, just going back to the positive message piece, I was listening to Heal the World, and there's no songs today like that. Like, we have some songs like All My Life, J. Cole and Lil Durk. It doesn't have the same message of Heal the World. It's crazy to me. Like, Michael Jackson is one of the greatest for that reason, that he got into like the humanitarian kind of stuff with Man in the Mirror, Black or White, definitely Earth Song. You know what I'm saying? Like, his message was so much more than just who he was sleeping with. You know, like, that's what's needed today. You know, like I said, this is just a sit down kind of conversation, because it's time. You know, it's time to let go of the fear. It's time to really start unleashing the creativity, because there's such a void, man. Like, as I've been saying, people need that real spirit, the real soul, the real emotions of a person. Artists do so much for the world, you know, and we need some real artists these days, not just the manufactured, bought and paid for copycats. You know, we need some very real things. So yeah, man, just enjoy the journey. Because like I said, people might not find out about your stuff right away. It might be 7 years, and that's okay. You know, if it takes 7 years for people to realize that you're amazing, astonishing, outstanding, like nobody else, then it'd be well worth it. You know, enjoy the journey. Even if you're learning an instrument, enjoy the journey. And if you want to get started on an instrument, don't wait, don't hesitate. You know, like, now is the time, for real. And like I said, I'm always talking to myself. Like, now is always the time. Don't wait, man. Now is always the time, and especially now for art, because there's such a void. It's time. Enjoy it, create, be yourself, and I guess that's all I have to say for this video. I wanted it to be more inspirational. I don't know if it came off that way. You gotta let me know. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you felt inspired. This was more of a sit down, you know, relaxed, kind of reflective talk for today. But yeah, so keep on playing. If you haven't, get started. Keep on creating, you know. And also, don't compete. You can say that. Don't compete. Just create. Don't try to be better. You know, you can want to be the biggest, but before you try and go and become the biggest, be yourself first. Learn how to be yourself first, and then after that, if you still want to be the biggest, then go and try and be the biggest. But you know, being yourself is more important than trying to be any status, attain any status, or be anything else. You know, because we want to hear and see you. We don't want to hear and see somebody that's trying to be something that they're not. You know, because then it's just fake. It's more of the fake stuff, and we'll just throw that in the pile of forgetfulness, like we do with everybody else who's trying to be something that they're not. You know, so we want to hear you. There's one of you. You are entirely unique. We want to hear your life. We want to hear your story. We want to hear your thoughts, your heart, your mind, your soul, your emotions. We want to hear it from you. You know, we don't want to hear you try to put it in somebody else's kind of mindset. You know, so yeah, it takes time to do that. But enjoy that journey and have that mindset. What is my sound? What is my style? What is my thing? You know, what am I trying to communicate? How do I communicate? You know, so yeah, this was pretty interesting.